Hello, everybody. I'm Candid Frank Live of Candid Frank Live. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV Channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now, joining me is Aaron William Freeland. Hello, Aaron. Another weekend is upon us.
Yes, sir. It's finally Friday, and I can't wait.
So tell me, what's very special and close to your heart this weekend? Any races going on?
No, unfortunately, no races this weekend. It is an off weekend for most of the motorsports around town. So there's nothing for me in that regard. I'm just looking for an opportunity to sleep in for a change.
Oh, and we know how much you like to sleep in.
Wow. I must say, Frank, I don't think you're getting a lot of sleep these days either, are you?
No. I must admit I'm not. And the only sleeping I'm doing is waiting to start. No, just kidding. Okay, let's.
That's just me.
All right, the draft's coming. The Leafs don't have that many picks. What do you got to say about the draft?
It's going to be one of the more interesting ones here. Buffalo, I know, is going to be drafting first. Seattle is going to be drafting second tonight. So we'll have to see what happens there. There have already been some moves ever since the rosters unlocked on Thursday. So we've seen some player movement already. We've seen some players moving, some players you didn't expect to see moving. And it's a whole new world. Silly season starts next Monday. And things will just get a little bit hairier at that point.
Absolutely. And there'll be a little bit of excitement while they do the countdown from pick to pick to pick to pick to pick. The Rangers' Goodrow agrees to a 6-year extension. The former Lightning player is doing pretty well now, isn't he?
He seems to be doing all right for himself. As it is, they picked him up on a 6-year extension just days after acquiring his signing rights. It's basically a $21.85 million contract worth about $3.64 million a year, which is a nice upgrade for him over his previous deal with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Who says that success doesn't translate? So he'll have a new start on Broadway. At the same time, another Ranger, Pavel Buchnevich, is actually going to be making a new start in St. Louis.
Ooh.
So, yeah, not sure if that was the intent when picking up Goodrow, but Buchnevich is now out. Fans on Twitter are, of course, reacting as predicted. They're very
He's a well-liked
not happy.
Ranger. He's a well-liked Ranger.
Yeah, the scenery is changing. So,
the Hamilton Tiger Cats and rookie tight end Burt getting to know each other. That's what the story says anyway.
Yeah, apparently there's a bit of a feeling out process going on here. Jake Burt, the former Boston College tight end, first overall in this year's CFL draft, and Orlando Steinhauer say the team are seeing firsthand what this guy, he's 6'3", 230, can actually do. So he's basically been described by Orlando as a Swiss Army knife kind of player, which can be handy, especially in the CFL.
Absolutely. The Argonauts dealt Alden Darby to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers for Terry Poole. Terry Poole's an offensive lineman, an American.
This is a bit of an interesting swap because Darby's 5'11", 195, and they're getting back a 6'5", 325-pound player. So, you know.
If you were going by weight, the Argos did fine.
Yeah, sure. They came out on top on this one.
Yeah, we're going to spend a little time on this topic. The Cleveland team in Major League Baseball will be changing its name for next year. They're changing it to the Guardians. There's a big monument, the Guardians of the Highways or something, in Cleveland, and this is where the root of how they've come to give this name. And I guess the mascot could be any of the Guardians of the Galaxy. No, maybe.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's possible.
Hey?
I mean, it's basically 4 massive statues on either side of the Hope Bridge, which is just outside the stadium.
Right.
And it's there's a horse carriage, a 1920 style car, a trolley car, and a dump truck, which all symbolize the different vehicles that were used to help build the city of Cleveland. It seems appropriate to me that they would use the Guardians of Transportation in much the similar way that when the old Ricoh Coliseum was renamed, it was renamed the Coca-Cola Coliseum. Most people were upset by that, saying, oh, it's all corporate. But what they don't realize is that Coke's first bottling plant in Canada was actually opened just 2.5 kilometers north of where the stadium currently sits.
Yes, I
So
remember it.
just like with the Guardians, and just like with Coca-Cola Coliseum, calling them the Cleveland Guardians is sort of a nod to their past, as well as an indication of where they'd like to go for the future. One interesting side note: when you mentioned the Guardians of the Galaxy, there, Frank, the logo kind of reminds me of Thor's winged helmet from
Yes, it
Ragnarok.
does.
So,
The two of them. I don't have the just from recollection. I remember seeing it. Yeah. So, well, you know what? There are a lot of people who really don't like the idea that teams are changing their names. I'm on the fence in the sense that I don't think it matters. I don't, a rose by any other name, right? Any team that sucks, it isn't because of the name; it's because the team sucks. So, the name really, I understand the history involved and all that stuff, but you know what? We're changing. We're becoming more sensitive. Some people might think a little too sensitive. Others think, it's about time, and that's kind of where I sit. It's about time. The truth is, it's not a very appropriate name. I mean, if a baseball team used the N word, right? And they said, well, we've been using it for 100 years. Why can't we keep using it?
still not right.
Right? Because that's what that other word is not what it represents, right? You're taking a people and you're giving them a name that's not theirs, right? And history needs to be accurate in this case, and I'm not so disappointed that it's changed. Guardians is interesting.
So let's be honest, Frank, though, you and I aren't necessarily of the demographic that would be insulted by these names. So it's really not necessarily our place to say we don't care. So,
it's not that we don't care. It's not we just understand and go, yeah, so.
Yeah. So,
happen,
okay,
right?
change the name.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I mean, they had over 40,000 different names that were, or 40,000 different people that they pulled and over 1,200 different names. So I guess
gives you an opportunity to have a contest.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I mean, how much different is it than a team changes its colors? You know what I mean? Like changes their uniforms, changes their logo. We saw the Blue Jays go to black and white, right?
Yeah. And gray.
And gray, exactly. and it was a nice try. But sometimes some things just don't work. You just got to move on and enjoy the one that makes more sense, and it does. This is one we could spend about an hour on. The NFL announced Thursday it will not allow games to be rescheduled in the event of a COVID-19 outbreak. Further, if the reason that people have COVID-19 is because they weren't vaccinated, we're talking forfeiture here. We're talking about a team, and not only getting a loss in the win-loss column, getting a no get paid in that column. And not just the team at fault, both teams. This is pretty heavy.
Yeah, this is one of those straighten up and fly right sort of things that I think the NFL is putting out. I know they like to people like to call them the no fun league, but when it comes to something like this, you kind of have to take a slightly more serious look at it. I mean, they are saying essentially, if a game cannot be rescheduled during the 18-week NFL season in 2021 due to a COVID outbreak amongst unvaccinated players, the team with the outbreak will forfeit and be credited with the loss for playoff seeding purposes, as per sources.
Wow.
So, if most teams only have one or two bye weeks in there, so if you get a full-blown outbreak and you have to
a couple of weeks.
Exactly. So this is, I think, sufficient incentive to make sure that you meet the vaccination requirements that the NFL has set out.
Let me put it in perspective for folks. If this was the rule in the National Hockey League, Montreal wouldn't have made the playoffs.
Yep.
That's what
Dallas wouldn't have made the playoffs.
Right?
Vancouver wouldn't have made the playoffs.
Out. I was going to go with that one first, but then I went, wait a second, they're not going to
Uh,
anyway, right?
if
That
you
was
see the trades
they
they
had
made today
another
with
problem.
Arizona, it gets even worse. But that's
They had
something else.
another problem. But you get my drift. Like, there could be a team that have well within their rights saying you really screwed us this year. Yikes. So
Yeah.
karate returns to its roots at the debut of the Tokyo Olympics. I mean, karate, Japan, karate,
Kind of makes sense, right?
doesn't it?
So yeah, no, it's good to see it actually making a return. I'm glad for that. Hopefully, it'll get the credits and the credence that it's definitely due because it's a fascinating sport to watch. I don't know if you've ever watched any matches in
Yes.
previous Olympics, but it is fantastic stuff.
And you mean other than the Karate Kid, right?
Yeah, exactly. Outside of the Ralph Macchio stuff and the Hilary Swank stuff, because people forget she was in Karate Kid 3.
She was. She was. Men's Olympic soccer is underway at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, and the opening round of fixtures produced some surprising results, with France and Germany both suffering heavy defeats. And then what about a win by Australia?
Yeah, 2-0 over Argentina was a bit of a
Whoa.
surprise. Yeah. So
Whoa.
that's a big win in Group C. Egypt actually tied Spain 0-0 as
Oh,
well. So that's
jeez. Holy
right.
back. Spain just followed up the Euro Cup, didn't they?
Oh,
Man,
it
they're
just
looking like Italy of 4 years ago.
but just Brazil beating Germany 4-2 was a bit of a shocker as
Uh,
well.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
But I get it. They're not the Brazil of, they're not the Pele Brazil. I get it. I get it. But, the Australia one doesn't shock me too much. I don't think, Australian sports is very successful. You know, they do really well. When it comes to swimming, considering their population, I know there's a lot of water around them and stuff, but they're incredible in a lot of sports. They truly are. And
they're
they've been knocking on the door soccer wise, right? In the World Cup and stuff.
they tend to be what I refer to as sneaky good.
Absolutely.
They'll surprise you at times, especially when it comes to speed skating. Some of the winter sports they're really starting to excel at now. They traditionally do well in swimming, but that's to
Right.
be expected
Summer
because most
sport.
of the stuff that's in the water there will eat you.
Absolutely. So maybe that's why they learned to swim so fast.
Possible.
Okay, well, okay, like do we need Algerian judoka quits again rather than face Israeli foe at Olympics?
Uh,
Really?
this is they're trying to make a political point here. Basically, Fethi Nourin quit the Tokyo Olympics over the fact that he could potentially have faced an Israeli opponent in the second round. This is in protest over what's happening in Palestine currently. 5 years ago at the Rio Olympics, I don't know if you recall this, but the IOC dismissed Egyptian judoka Islam El Shahabi for refusing to shake hands after losing to Israeli Or Sasson, the eventual bronze medalist. But there is unfortunately a lot of political unrest and violence in that particular region. And I guess they feel that the best way to make it is make their point is on an international stage such as this. I mean, it's going to cost Fethi Nourin a chance at a medal, but at the same time, it's a cause that he believes in that's apparently higher than himself. So,
well, if this is a method of protest, congratulations, he succeeded in protesting. It's politics, and unfortunately, there are some times when we can all agree that politics needs to be addressed, and there are times when we think it doesn't need to be addressed. This is one that I'm on the fence. I truly am on the fence with this one. I will not criticize and I will not applaud in this case. This is something difficult to understand when it comes to the Mideast. My head spins when I think about it, Aaron. I can't make hide nor hair of what goes on there. I don't get it.
No, unfortunately I have certain opinions on the subject, but I don't know enough. I have friends that have lived in the region, but more friends on one side than the other.
I hear you.
So it's and it's difficult.
What are you hearing? Yeah. What are you hearing? It is, it's another one of those cases where The information is very, I think, because the information is so red hot, because there is such a heat over that situation. It's hard to have a conversation because without even trying to, you can upset either side very quickly simply by asking a question. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I prefer to keep my fingers inside the cage. Denis Shapovalov loses to Czech Vitkopriva. This might be a function of he's becoming a favorite, and which means he has a bigger target on his back. Yes.
As it currently stands, yeah, he's currently 10th, ranked number 10 in the world. So this is a big step up for Denis. Vitkopriva is actually ranked 429th. So
A little behind him.
just a little bit, but occasionally, and a lot of the times, really,
point.
where they're ranked really depends on how many tournaments they may have participated in, not necessarily how good they are.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it could be a bit of a surprise. Shapovalov may have just had an off game. These things occasionally do happen. So, best of luck to him in his next tournament going forward, but also best of luck to Vit as he keeps playing.
And Shapovalov has the flag can be very heavy. He's a very proud Canadian, and he's done us proud over the past few years. He has really had some great matches. This one, I think this one here is just one of those ones where he has to learn to be consistent. And this is what happens with young athletes, right? You got to be prepared. You can't lose these kinds of champions don't lose these kinds of matches. I hope I'm not insulting the competitor either, if you know what I mean. But yeah, these are the kinds of wins that he's got to make, and he's got to learn to win the ones he's not, that he should win. It's hard. It truly is hard. I admire what he's done. He's done a great job. Massive outage disrupts internet services in Canada and around the world. So how was your internet? I think
I was actually trying to access my banking information yesterday, but couldn't, because apparently my banking services provider that actually does business, there was a massive service outage for Akamai cloud services. They experienced what they call a service incident. Now, basically, they had a dedicated DDoS, or distributed denial of service attack, which essentially meant that you could log in to certain websites on certain devices, but not on your actual computer. There were actually over 34,000 websites that were actually down yesterday for the majority of the day. And by about the close of business yesterday, there were still 18,000 that were offline. There's also almost 250 websites that were offline in Canada. Most of the services have been restored. I'm not sure if this was an attempted bitware or a Bitcoin hack, or a data hostage situation or not, but it mostly seems to have been resolved.
Well, we can look forward to Russia and China, in fact, on the attack at the Olympics as well. So, the more we rely on the internet, Aaron, the bigger target it is to be maliciously attacked.
And it's surprisingly easy to fire sale something. It's
for me. I can barely turn it on, and I struggle with entering my password.
It's not even necessarily the individuals that they're going after, Frank. You might be lucky enough in a fire sale to have your debt wiped out.
Well, there you go. That'd be a good thing. Respirologist advises patients to keep using recalled sleep apnea machines for now.
for now. Now, Philips has actually had to recall some of its constant positive airway pressures and BiPAP machines because of a risk of foam particles. I mean, the machines that I wear one myself, but mine isn't made by Philips. Mine is made by a company called MedSense. They're not a sponsor, but I'm looking for a new machine. Now there is a possibility that because foam is used to insulate parts of the machine, there is a possibility that foam particles could have broken down and degraded into the air filtration system. It's not likely, but you could. So because you might maybe inhale some, they're recommending that you get that recalled and swapped out. The issue that we're looking at here is these machines aren't cheap, and they aren't necessarily always covered by health insurance. For example, the machine that I have cost me upwards of $600 out of my own pocket. That was after provincial health care kicking in about 80% of it. So wow. It's a big ticket item. Life-saving, you might say, but at the same time, it's difficult.
I understand. Well, yes, take care with that. And folks, what we're talking about here is there have been some issues raised, but nothing that terminates the use of the product for now. It's just, keep your eye on it. We're just giving you advance warning, something to look forward to or check out. Homeless supporters, authorities clash as Toronto clears another homeless encampment. This one, of course, at Lamport Stadium. Aaron, you wanted to talk about this Wednesday, and so tell us about this brouhaha. Apparently, it got violent.
Well, there's a group of between 14 to about 20 people, according to city estimates, that were issued trespass notices last month, and they were warned by the city that they could potentially be removed by force if they refuse to leave, and face fines of up to $10,000 if convicted of trespassing. Now, this is the city of Toronto going after a group of homeless people who do not have the $10,000 to pay the fine, and who
or
do not
address to send the fine to.
Exactly. And who don't want to go into Toronto's shelter system just because of the fact that it's not as safe as it could be, and the city is doing very little to improve the homeless shelter system that is currently in place. And the police are saying we're going to get individuals to where they can get help, and we're going to see that they get food and that sort of thing. But where they're putting them is not necessarily any better than where they're coming from. So, like what happened.
What's the reason? Is it optics? Like, what is the reason? Are they causing problems at Lamport Stadium? Is there a sport event that can't happen because somebody can't use the field because they're there, can't use the parking lot because they're there? What is the motivation that causes them to be in the situation where it can ignite into what it did?
I'm not sure. I'll be honest with you. I don't have an inside line at Toronto Police Services in 14 Division to get more information on this, but the impression that I got and the understanding that I had was that there had been an escalation in the number of complaints and police service calls to that particular location. Now, it's not necessarily the people who were living there. It's the people that were partying there.
Oh.
And using the homeless people as cover for their gatherings, because it's already a tent city anyways. Nobody's going to notice an extra trash. There were, rumors of public drunkenness and fighting, that sort of thing. It's akin to what happened at Trinity Bellwoods. They decided that they were going to try to clear the area. What makes this even worse is the fact that not a day after this happens, or a day and a half after this happens, there's filming taking place there for a major production.
Oh,
yeah. Now the production company that was actually filming there did clear the air, saying, "Look, we didn't ask for the police to do this. It was not us. It's really, we've had permits here and we've been scheduled to shoot here 4 months, but we didn't ask the police to clear the area for it to make our lives easier." And a lot of productions actually in Toronto will hire, if they do happen to be shooting in an area where there are homeless people. I have heard of productions hiring people to act as gaffers and runabouts and that sort of thing. Okay. So in this particular instance here, though, Toronto police served the notice. Some people were beaten up by police. That the pictures are horrifying. But there were about 24 people that were arrested. It got worse later in the day at 14 Division itself, when people went to collect and meet people that had been arrested, and people again started to lay into the crowd with batons and pepper spray at 14 Division.
Wow.
Yeah. So It's not that homelessness is a problem. It's how the city of Toronto has decided to
Well,
deal with it.
homelessness is a
I
problem,
mean,
Aaron.
yes, I'm.
Homelessness is a problem, but homeless people, their existence is a problem, not because they either intend or even do anything to be a problem. They're just trying to live somewhere, you know. So, but some people, it's we could run the gamut. We could assume many things, many reasons, because of many people. There are a lot of reasons why they could be getting in trouble there, but primarily, you and I both know it's the only place they have to live. They can go to the shelters. The problem with the shelters, you've expressed the view that some of the shelters aren't as safe. And I think also maybe the independence as well. I could see a human being wanting to live on their own if they could figure out a way to not have to be relying on anybody. I know that sounds silly for someone who's living on the street, but I mean there is a level of pride for all of us, right? It doesn't matter how dire our situation is, you know, they're living on their own. Their independence is it matters probably. I would assume that them being human, and that's the thing we have to remember. These aren't these these aren't these aren't rescue animals. You know, what I mean, these are people. These are people trying to live, and if they're living on the street, that tells you the options are very limited for them. So I hope they work it out. I wish I had all the answers. I don't. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for letting me talk about it, Frank. I appreciate that too.
You're welcome. MLK, the KKK, and more may soon be cut from Texas education requirements. So if you don't read about it, it never happened, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at the Texas Senate has actually passed already Senate Bill number 3. Now this is designed to this is a bill that's basically targeting critical race theory, and it's designed to remove Martin Luther King, women's suffrage, voting rights, that sort of thing from being taught in public schools. It stipulates that the lessons cannot teach that one race or sex is inherently superior to the other, or make students feel discomfort, guilt, or anguish about privilege or systemic racism. So we're going to protect your little white kids for as long as we possibly can by banning the teaching of the civil rights movement. We're not going to talk about the Civil War. We're not going to talk about slavery or Jim Crow or Japanese internment camps or the Chinese exclusion laws or anything like that. We're just going to make everything as white bread as possible.
Okay, I'm gonna frame it just slightly different. If you don't read about it, it never happened.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing: Idiocracy was supposed to be a comedy, not a documentary, and Texas seems to be working very hard towards making it real.
I don't mean it as a positive, Aaron. I don't mean it as a positive. I'm talking about, if you have a problem and you keep repeating the same method that results in that problem, if you don't change, you still end up back there again. We must learn from our past experience. History is a way of ensuring that through history we understand our past so that we don't repeat the bad and understand the good the same way. But I just think it's a situation where it seems to me that it's a reaction to the negative reaction of people when it comes to race and other things. You're going to have this kind of stuff. You're going to have people who don't want to talk about it, and they don't want their kids to feel inferior just because just because you helped make other people feel inferior. Don't put us in the same boat that you were in. Well, let's not put any of us in that boat. Let's not make anyone feel inferior. And the fact is, if there's racism, we need to talk about it. Now, in what context do you do it in the education system? That's what the argument's about, right? It's not, I don't think anybody's arguing about the fact that there is racism. I don't think anybody's arguing about the fact, it just, there are some people that don't want to, I'll put it this way to you. Not everybody who's white is responsible for what happened in the past, Aaron. Would you at least admit that?
I can certainly admit that we are not necessarily guilty of the sins of our parents. or our
Again,
grandparents. But at the same time, if you continue to benefit from what that system that your grandparents and great grandparents put in place, if you continue to reap the benefits of a racist system, then you have to try to help change it.
isn't the point that you want to eliminate favoritism so that everybody gets an equal opportunity?
Well, the whole point here, obviously, what I believe they're striving towards, and what I actively try to do, is to make sure that it's not necessarily equality, but equity. Everybody has the same opportunities.
Yeah, okay. You know, equating it and actually having it, there could be a big space between the two, Aaron. That's my point. At some point, let me frame it this way for you. At some point, all the companies, for example, let's all the companies that hire people, they're going to hire more and more minorities, right? That's what they should be doing, right? Until when? When do they stop increasing the amount of minorities that are being hired in jobs that they want and white people want? When does it stop? The acceleration, I mean.
I don't know. You tell me, Frank. You seem to got a handle
I'll
on
tell
that.
you, I'll tell you very simply. It's impossible. Because what has to happen is somebody at some point is going to say, for example, I give you an example. I'll use Americans because I don't want to use Canadians because it's too personal for us. In America, 13% of the black population, 13% of the population is black, right?
Okay.
Okay, just agree with me with that. Just trust me, it's an accurate number.
Okay.
So should we stop at 13% of the jobs that everybody wants that black people get? They get 13% of them, because if they get more than 13%, that means somebody else is being discriminated against. No,
Now, are you referring here to equality or equity?
I'm referring to data
Mm-hmm.
driven decisions. See, data drives everything. That's the world we live in today. We're data. Where somebody says, "Well, how many corporate CEOs are black? 1%." That's not right. That's wrong. That means that black people aren't participating at that level of that position by 12%. They're missing. They have 12% less the opportunity than everybody else. You understand my math?
Yeah, I can see that.
So what happens when we reach 13%? Do we stop? Does someone say, okay, they've got all theirs. Now, who else doesn't have their fair share? How many Asians? You get what I'm saying? I'm not saying that. I'm saying that from the sense of, Aaron, we can't put ourselves in our position, is what I'm trying to get at. We have to put ourselves in our personal position. We need to understand as a group, are we offering everybody an equal opportunity? So, at the end of the day, if 27% of the on-air people at TSN are people of color or black, and 3% of Canadians are black, and there's 25% black on air, how does that reflect on everybody else, and how does everyone else feel who isn't like you, Asian background, like me, Italian background? Do you understand the maybe that's the root of why people, for example, again, the US, why they're getting so upset? Because they fear that they're going to end up in the same position, the people that they're trying to say, like, who wants to be where black people were 10, 15, 20 years ago? Do you?
See, that kind of implies that they're aware of the fact that there's a problem with how they treat black people.
Right. And they should change that. And that's where I don't like the word critical race theory, because again, it's the same. Those words are the same kind of words that when you hear defund the police, they're angry words, critical race theory, critical. It's a mean word. It's a mean word. It's not meant that way, but that's when people say, Aaron, when people say defund the police, does that do you think that's a good statement?
I think saying scale back police involvement to adequately have
Ah,
communities and social services
ah,
represented is just a little too long.
right. But what
So
about what
defund the
about
police is a punchier way of saying it.
Yeah, but it's mean. It's angry.
How so?
It's very simple. If you were the president of the United States and your name is Obama, and Obama doesn't like it, he's a black man. He's a black man with power who thinks defunding the police is a terrible phrase, which is causing liberal centrists, I'll put it that way, a big problem because it's angry, Aaron. Like angry words aren't going to get us anywhere. Anywhere. What you want to say about the police is we need justice and we need to be treated equally. It's not that hard to say. Black folks should be treated equally under the law as anyone else. Everyone should be treated equally. The police should be responsible for their actions. I don't have to be mean about it. I don't have to be aggressive about it because that aggression justifies aggression on the right side. That's my opinion. So the way the way liberals talk, they can't whine and complain when the right uses the same kind of aggressive talk, like aggressive, angry talk. We need more peace. We need more understanding. And the understanding is not furthered by defund the police. It's a negative, it implies evil, it basically says all police are evil. Because if you're going to defund the police, you're not just defunding the bad ones, you're defunding all of them. You're saying they're all bad. And that's what's wrong. I know police can be abusive. I know they cross the line. I know that. But we need to deal with the ones that do, not all of them. We need to be a little more understanding that police are human as well. And that's the side that I go on. I call myself a centrist because of that, because people on the left get too angry and too aggressive. And guess what the people on the right do? Like, at Fox, they get too aggressive. I'm stuck in the middle watching these two groups behave in a manner that is unacceptable in my heart, not just my mind, in my heart. So yeah, defunding the police. Critical race theory is a terrible name. It implies being critical. It just, words matter, words matter. And how you use them matter, it's not a good word and not a good group of words. By the way, I love MLK, one of my heroes growing up. KKK, not so much. And them removing him, to me, is a disgrace. And, he was the kind of guy that speaks to what I believe. If he was around, he'd have been telling people this business of defunding the police is stupid. Trust me, Martin Luther King would have said that. He would have said, you guys are stupid. Stop talking like that. He raised people up. He gave people respect. We don't see much of that anymore from the right or the left. Environmental news. Dangerous, slow-moving storms could occur 14 times more frequently in Europe by 2100. This is a study saying this. That's a lot of storms, and that's a lot of concern for people, Aaron.
Well, I don't know if you saw the footage in Germany or in China over the past couple of days, but they have been experiencing record amounts of flooding. We're talking up to the bottom of up to halfway up the first story of buildings, cars swept away. The problem that we have is these slow-moving storms tend to sit one on top of the other. You can have 4 or 5 storms just stack themselves up, almost like planes in a holding pattern waiting to come in at the airport.
Absolutely.
So that you're getting 7, 8, 9, 10 hours of just straight rain that's just pelting down. And there's nowhere for any of it to go for some of these European cities except right through Main Street. So Absolutely. It's going to continue to become an issue. And the other danger that we're looking at here is glacier and mountain snow runoff as well. As things get warmer, those areas that used to be permanently frozen will become unfrozen, which means there's a lot of water that's going to be coming down from the high reaches. So that's something that we need to be aware of and actually do something about.
Yeah, we got to take care. We got to take care. I got a new thing I want to hit you with.
Sure.
Binge watching because of the pandemic has become a very popular thing, and I got two shows that I've found recently: Reprisal and Why Women Kill. Have you heard of them?
I have heard of Why Women Kill, but not Reprisal.
Well, Reprisal is a very interesting. It's film noir. I would put. I'm not a film expert, but I would say it's something that it's dark. It's very dark. I recommend it, Aaron. It's totally enthralling, and it really grabs you. And it moves kind of crazy. It's like the movie with John Travolta and what's her name, where lots of blood and guts.
Uma Thurman.
Yeah,
Oh, Pulp
it's
Fiction. Okay, so
Pulp
kind of like
Fiction. It's
that.
it's kind of like Pulp Fiction. Why Women Kill is Mark Cherry's the guy that brought us Desperate Housewives. So it's about you're watching two generations in a house. They live in the same house, but two generations, right? And basically one is in the 60s and the other one's in the 80s, or 93. There've been two seasons. The first season just ended, and now the second season is partway through right now. I recommend it to you folks. If you like something interesting, give it a shot. I just wanted to throw that out there. You got any suggestions for folks out there?
As a matter of fact, I do. For those individuals who subscribe to Netflix, your favorite indie director from the 1990s, Kevin Smith, has a new series that actually premieres today called He-Man Revelations. It's a direct continuation of where the old TV show ended in the 1980s.
Oh,
And it's dropping today on Netflix. Good luck with that on trying to get through to watch it. For those of you that have Disney Plus, one of their most recent limited series, Loki, just concluded. That was a lot of fun and actually sets up Phase 4 really nicely. I'm not going to spoil anything when it comes to Loki because I know how sensitive some of our viewers can be to spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
I have been told on several occasions that I am the world's biggest jerk for talking about some of the TV shows that I do on here. So suffice to say that it is setting up the next big bad for Marvel's Phase 4, and I'm happy with that.
I'm going to mention a couple of things about COVID, and then you can add your 2 cents. Why is Canada outpacing U.S. in vaccination? Fauci says we don't have their divisiveness here in Canada. We don't have it. Vaccine complacency, tossed doses. Experts say Canadians mistaking COVID-19 risk. Online trolls force closure of pro-vaccine Ontario business website. Those 3 topics. Go.
So there was a great thing called thingstodo.com that was opened up recently by a lawyer in Toronto. I basically wanted to provide people with information about restaurants and whatnot that were open and following COVID protocols. However, he noticed that as soon as he started to do that, a bunch of trolls would jump onto Yelp and downrate all of the restaurants because masks and requiring vaccines and you're all jerks and we hate you. And so he decided in order to prevent people from going through that, we're going to pull that. Canadians, less divisive when it comes to vaccines, possibly. I have had some rather interesting discussions on that topic myself, but for the most part, we do seem to be doing better with it than the Americans. We actually will be passing I believe it's the 60% threshold for double vaxxed folks very shortly. So that's a very, very good sign. But the problem that we're having here is because more things are opening up, people are more convinced that Canada is better off. So I don't necessarily need to get a vaccine because my neighbors got the shot and that's going to protect me. Not the way it works.
KIB, Alabama Republican governor says, start blaming the unvaccinated folks for the rise in COVID cases. Nearly half of House Republicans won't say publicly if they're vaccinated. Okay, that's a GOP. You got 30 seconds, buddy.
Sure. They're quoting HIPAA when it comes to that, which is the Health Insurance Protection and Transferability Act, which is not how it works.
No.
HIPAA doesn't protect you from telling people whether or not you're vaccinated. It prevents your insurance provider from accidentally exposing your information. So get that out of your head right away.
The Hippocratic Oath, which doctors are required not to do as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Well, this was fun, Aaron. We got them all in. You know that, don't you?
Bang, bang, baby. Rapid fire.
And I threw some in that we didn't do last time.
Covering the bases.
All of them. Enjoy your weekend, buddy.
Thanks, Frank. You too.
All right, that's Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live, Aaron, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. The show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out spanglishworld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching. Ciao for now.